Franklin County, Iowa, said to have been first settled in 1852, and we are told by 1860 there was a number of flourishing towns springing up in Franklin County. However, today we are going to skip ahead 30 years to 1891 when they say their courthouse was constructed. And as you can see, a very large and robust building with lots of color and artistic flair. And we are told that this building is only 2 stories, has 2 floors, but they built the foundation high. So we are told that the Franklin County Courthouse has a high foundation. And what do you know? There is very little documentation about the construction of this courthouse. Spending a few hours at the library there in Hampton and going through everything I could, I was only able to find a caption with any info about the construction of this courthouse. And when you go through the local history, the timeline there, they make no mention of this courthouse anywhere. Only in a caption where they show other buildings do they give it a date of when they said it was constructed. And even then, the date of 1890 is a year earlier from when other sources say this building was constructed. But of course, this is just history, right? Accurate dates don't matter that much, do they? And I'll remind you again that with Iowa winters, construction would have stopped for possibly 6 months out of this year. So to say that this building was built in 1 year, when we're looking at Iowa weather, you gotta say, oh, it was more 6 months. So 1890, 1891 are the only dates that accompany the origin story of this building, which, what are we supposed to think? It was done in 1 year? They worked through an Iowa winter. They built this building in 1 year with no power tools? Is that our history? Is that reality? Is that a fact? Does it seem like a fact when you go through all the documentation and you find a million holes? Or does it seem like a fraud? And now we will take a look at this lone construction photo they have for the Franklin County Courthouse. And like so many other Iowa courthouse construction photos, the building is almost done. The sky is whited out and you only see them working on the top. And I will note here that they absolutely had cameras, access to cameras, so there's no excuse for there to only be 1 photo. There are several photos from the Civil War time period, and to think that the kind of money they would spend on this and the kind of talent they would be bringing to town, there would be lots of photos taken. So again, there's no excuse for there to only be 1 photo. And also, as far as camera technology goes, as long as they have had cameras, they have had the ability to alter the image during development. So this business of, oh, well, they didn't have Photoshop. No, there's always been a kind of Photoshop. And first off, I want to say that this is likely a composite image, some kind of drawing, some kind of mishmash of photographs and drawings and templates. And unless they situated the camera 70 feet up in a tree, I don't know how they could have taken this photo, further suggesting it's a composite. Kind of a reoccurring theme with this regime for them to not have a good answer for the question of who took the picture of your alleged accomplishment. And now we've already kind of pointed out how the background doesn't match up with other photos. But now if we zoom in, we can see this interesting hole. And it looks like the con artist also put a small tree right in front of the building where they would have excavated a giant hole for the foundation and been working, and yet here's a little tiny tree right next to the base. And when we take a closer look at what is presumed to be workers, maybe 30, 40, 50 people standing around the base, we see drawings of people not working. We don't see tools on the ground. We don't see debris. We don't see a stack of blocks ready to be hoisted up. We see shit like this. Something you would never see on an active construction site. People standing at the base of a building that is being constructed with all this weight and all this material, and people are going to be just standing around at the base. Those people wouldn't do that, and the construction company wouldn't allow it. Again, more nonsense. And now we'll take a look at what for me was the most obvious bunch of just nonsense, is this rig up here. So these nonsense little contraptions that would not do anything and would take more time to install than they would do any work show that the people that edited these images couldn't even fake how this process would go. They couldn't even fake it. They couldn't even imagine what it would look like. So they scribbled together things like this of what they thought this construction site would look like. They would have extensive scaffolding and ladders all around the outside of this building, and they would build the frame first. Just moving a rig like this into place would be, well, impossible. You don't see anything around here that could lift that. So are they trying to say that big board went into the building and then they lifted it up, they carried it up the stairs and then put this together right there? Is that what they're saying? And when we look close, we see this makeshift crane, this arm of the crane here, just kind of attached to the wall with a pen stroke. And we see a couple workers here standing on top of the building, clearly doing nothing in their hand. Nothing about this process seems like anything is getting done. So are these the only two workers? Why, if there's all this work to be done up here, why is there all these people standing on the ground where there's two guys up top here doing nothing? And we can see their antenna or tower there on the left, apparently glitching in and out. Maybe it's some kind of hologram. I'm hoping they were able to get some good AM radio stations with that tower while they were slaving away. But then again, they weren't there that long. They threw this building together in 6 months with two guys on top of the building with a fake crane. This is your American history, folks. And we are told the architect responsible for the Franklin County Courthouse was a man named T.D. Allen, or Truman Dudley Allen. And Mr. Allen's life reads like a fiction, a veritable Michelangelo of the Midwest, a man with massive amounts of achievements attributed to him with a very little documentation and a life story that would not reflect these kinds of achievements, and extremely hard to find a picture of the man as well.